Buddy, you think you look strong?
Oh, no. I'm the upgrade.
We all know about the 9 normal cats, and no, I don't count super feline. They're the first cats that you're guaranteed to get, and they're the cats that'll be used for basically the entire game, aside from one in particular, Axe Cat. Axe Cat has always been an infinite unit for his strange nature. The cat's known best for being overshadowed no matter what iteration or version Battle Cat releases for him next, and yes, this includes a brainwashed version, a cat that's so bad that all you have to do is look at the stats and say wow, similar to Clam in that way. Ponos gave Axe 4 different chances with different gimmicks and everything, and yet each and every time he failed harder than all of his other normal cat brethren. So today, let's analyze this frankly unfortunate failure of Ponos' most hated unit, Axe Cat and his family. Lil Dark. As I did for my gross video, I think it's important to start with the smallest to largest, I guess. Just like all other Lils, his first 2 forms are terribly weakened versions of their normal counterparts, so there's no reason to use them, even in 4-star. But his final form, well, how's that? You have to do a really hard special in rare restriction stage with a ton of strong angels to get his final form, so it must be good, right? Well, Lil Dark has lower stats than the original outside of being maxed. By that point, his stats max the original Dark Cat max stats. We'll be going off of max stats, so the main difference here is the strong against angels as opposed to the strong against reds. If you know a bit about angels though, you'd realize that there's something kind of wrong with this. Unlike red enemies, which are usually tanky and melee based, angel enemies are either rushers like black enemies or they have high damage and alright range. Mix this with Lil Dark's low range of 150 and it just gets even worse, as according to the wiki he can only outrange Gabriel, Divine Cyclone, and Saint Dober. On top of this, angels already have a great cat that'll be usable over Lil Dark, and that's Ramen, or Artist Cat. He has better DPS than a max level Lil Dark and a resistibility against angels, and if you beat the Lil Dark stage you certainly use this guy as your main tanker. So why in the world would you ever use his 150 range, 300 C costing, lesser Dark Cat to fight angels when without a shadow of a doubt you have Ramen, a cat that you at least have a nice amount of plus levels on if you beat the Lil Dark stage for his awakening, and a cat that you might have buffed with cat's eyes and talents before even getting his true form. Well, like all other Littles, let's see if talents fix any of his issues. Lil Dark has target a coup, freeze, and resist surge ability, and of course the expected defense and attack buff. If he was 50 plus 60 with defense and attack buff against targeted types, he'd gain 42,720 HP and 4,005 damage per hit, or 4,449 DPS. For the HP I used the pre-fruit multiplier of 0.5 times as opposed to the 0.4 times, and 0.5 times is simpler. These stats are terrible, especially when you factor in how long it takes to get them, as attack and defense buff alone costs 250. And in total for all of his talents, you'd have to spend a total of 615 NP for this unit that can't even break shields, can't outrange most common either Aku or Angel enemies, and for a unit that doesn't even have the health at maximum abilities to take on the damage either of those enemies can dish out. There probably was a way to save Lil Dark with talents, but this clearly just wasn't it. Lil Dark, even with max levels and talents, will eternally now continue to be one of the most useless unlockable cats in the game outside of cat combos. But while I don't think there is much hope for Lil Dark in the first place, I feel as if there was far more with his father, Dark Cat. Dark Cat himself is a far more unique, sad case of being underwhelming. From the start of the game, he had his chance to be a solid melee unit, one on the level or even higher than cats like Maximum the Fighter, Artist, or Goman, but this just isn't the case. Axe's sad case. It's your first time playing Battle Cats, and you get Axe Cat. Whoa, you might be thinking, this guy can actually kill enemies quickly! As you clear out enemies and prioritizing upgrading Axe for the next few stages, since he is our most powerful cat and all, you quickly beat the Philippines, and you unlock the ability to get Ninja. From looking at her description alone, you're intrigued. Rivals with Axe Cat, 10 wins to 1 loss? So this guy must be like Axe Cat, you'd think before spending 50 cat food. Once seeing her performance, you realize, wow, they really are Axe but better. More time passes, and by Alaska, you prioritizing upgrading Ninja and other units in Gacha so much that you forgot to upgrade Axe anymore. And already he's been fully outclassed, and replaced until your Ninja is replaced by Thor. One day in the future, while rolling your normal cat tickets and hoping for Dragon, Titan, or Wall, you get Axe Cat instead and sigh. Cool, I guess I have Dark Cat now, you say before continuing to not use him. By this point, you probably have Maximum the Fighter or some other cats that fulfilled the purpose Dark was supposed to fill but failed to. He's now nothing more than an annoying unit you don't want from normal ticket, since any other cat, even Mohawk, would be infinitely more useful to you. Dark Cat's pure replacement. By the time you get Dark Cat, you'll probably be wishing, dang, I wish I got those plus levels on Eraser or Dramera, instead of actually being happy about having Dark Cat. This is because more than anything, Dark Cat himself is a template for creating melee units as opposed to actually being a melee unit himself. This is where Maximum the Fighter again comes in as his most clear defining replacement. By the time you get Dark, you'll most likely have Maximum leveled up at least a little bit and a few plus levels possibly. But even if this isn't the case, Maximum at level 30 has a notable amount more HP than Dark has at level 20 plus 90, and this just gets worse if you decide to continue investing in Maximum. For an example, I'll use the Maximum the Fighter I have on my save versus my Dark Cat. Dark Cat for me is 20 plus 90, so his stats are already on screen. But for a talented max defense level 50 plus 24 maximum, he has 3,510 damage per hit or 4,212 DPS with 59,670 HP in general. Without fruits and thanks to his strong against red ability, he'll do 5,265 damage or 6,318 DPS, and accounting for the max defense talent, he'd have 143,208 HP. HP divided by 3 for his knockbacks, he'd have 47,736 per knockback. Maximum beats Dark for obvious reasons, cause just look at these stats. I seriously don't even have to calculate anything to tell you why this sucks in comparison to a rare cat that you get a little bit after you get Axe from Empire of Cats. Maximum basically just took Axe or Dark Cat's whole style and outperformed him. Just from Maximum existing at level 30, there's zero reason to use Axe. They have the same knockbacks, they have similar cooldowns, they even have similar attack speeds and ranges, not to mention the red targeting ability on top of that. Dark got copied by one unit and was done infinitely better. It's like they saw him in the early game and said, man, we messed up, let's try again! And so, now we have the legendary Maximum the Fighter, a cat that's been one of my favorites for years, and even though Maximum is a better version of Dark in all ways, he's still not very respected. There's just something about his class that isn't very useful or great, and there's definitely ways to make Dark better, but even if he was on Maximum levels, would he even have been a respectable unit? Like, if he had one knockback, higher HP, and higher DPS, could that have saved him and turned him into a good unit? I don't think so, because the subtype of units are usually very flawed. Leave how you personally would have fixed Dark in the comments if you want to, because I'm interested in seeing other solutions. But it's safe to say that this cat's one of the worst in the entire game. Manic Dark. Manic Dark is far better than the original Dark Cat, similarly to a lot of other craze cats, further making Dark Cat useless. But he still falls under the greatness of Maximum the Fighter. Sure, Manic Dark has 4.7k DPS in general and 7k DPS against reds at level 50, and that's fantastic for a 300C spammable unit assuming he can survive against the enemy. But that's assuming he can survive against the enemy. At level 50 with an effective HP of 33,930 or a strikingly low 11,310 HP per knockback, it's likely that he won't even get much damage off. Compared to Maximum DPS, sure, he wins, but compared to his HP at level 30, which is effectively 52,020 or 17,340 HP, and can be increased through talents or plus levels, his DPS becomes totally useless. Manic can only really work if you're fighting against LD units and you get a stack of them in there, or if the enemy doesn't do enough damage to set off Manic Dark's 11k per HP knockback. And this is after you spend 25 super rare Cat's Eyes on him. Cat's Eyes that could have went into other units like Liberty, Manic Eraser, Row, Can, Pizza, Fishman, Housewife, Fiend, Cutter, Saw, or literally anyone else. It's far more likely that you have a level 30 Manic Axe, which only has 25,230 HP or 8,410 HP per knockback and a DPS of 5.3k effectively. Manic Dark was an attempt to make Dark Cat better, as they buffed his damage by a notable amount, but they didn't bother improving any other aspect of him, like his low movement speed and HP. And in fact, Manic Dark has slightly less HP than the original by the time they're both maxed. I believe that if Manic Dark had 1 or 2 knockbacks, high movement speed, maybe 18, and a bit more HP, he could have been a nice stackable high DPS melee unit that could have been respectively used for niche circumstances. But that's not him. Brainwash Dark. Alright, so I don't have Brainwash Dark and I want you to remember that, but I believe that you can judge him based off of his stats and abilities alone. We'll only talk about his true form at level 50 plus 70 as this is the maximum of what he's capable of. He can make level 1 mini waves, is strong against traitless, is immune to knockback, freeze, and slow, and finally he can curse traitless enemies at a 30% chance for 3 seconds. These abilities sound kind of strange and kind of useful at the same time. I mean, we don't see many anti-traitless melee units, let alone ones in the same mold as Axe, and ones that can make level 1 mini waves each and every hit. But then you look at his other stats. 1 knockback is great, but 25k HP and 1.1k DPS generally is questionable at best. Against his targeted type, he gains 50.4k HP and 1.6k DPS. So it's clear that his point is to get in with his 14 movement speed and 150 range to curse as many traitless enemies as possible. But here's the thing, there aren't many traitless enemies that this would be useful against. Think of how many traitless enemies even have special abilities that this would be useful on. Personally, I can only think of Henry, since Brainwash is immune to freezing and has 14 movement speed, and he has 1 knockback, so you can certainly get in and curse him, but aside from this, how is this guy useful? Even in that scenario, Henry usually have some kind of melee support or backliners helping him deal damage, so it's even harder to get to him. 50.4k HP only is effective against traitless, so more likely than not he's dealing with 25k HP in later game stages. Traitless enemies, by the way, mostly depend on their stats like DPS and range as opposed to status ailments. Some of the most notable powerful traitless enemies like Ross, Delphina, and Kamel are strong because of their stats and range, and even then traitless enemies have incredible variety. Just bringing this guy into a traitless stage as a meat shield I suppose could be useful, but again this is by 50 plus 70. That's getting this very difficult to get super rare cat into cat capsule 70 times on top of using 25 super rare cat's eyes on him to get to this point. If you even get him to level 30, all he has is 10k HP generally and 20,400 HP effectively. This cat is useless and easily the worst brainwash unit. Yes, worse than Lil Dark. Again, I don't actually have him, so I'm not speaking from experience, but I do know enough about this unit to come to this conclusion. You have to not only hopefully get him from the super rare gacha at an incredibly low chance, which he sometimes isn't even on, but you then also have to do a difficult awakening stage in order to get his true form. Sure, with Lil Dark you also get him at a point where he's similarly useless, but Brainwash Dark is a cat that fails harder than him because Brainwash Dark had more going for him, and yet he still failed. In basically all circumstances, it's a better idea to bring Maximum the Fighter over Brainwash Dark. Maximum just clears all these dark variants. Conclusion: Maximum the Fighter eats each and every one of these cats like breakfast. He took their original skeleton and made it so good in comparison to that original that even 3 Axe Cat variant later, it still holds up as the best, and Maximum isn't even a well-respected unit. But before you go, here's a quick verse. Matthew 5:16, NASB 2020. Your light must shine before people in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. To me, this means that as a Christian, it's important to let others know that in a way that still glorifies God, as nothing's more important than Him. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Certainly subscribe, like, and comment for more Christian Battle Cats content, and continue to not use Dark Cat or any of his variants.